Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. My name is Sivam Belaidam, and welcome to our podcast, Open Up. Uh, Today, we have an amazing guest, but before that, I want to share a couple of things with you. Um, Voice of Men 360 is a non profit organization founded in 2020 in London, Ontario, Canada, dedicated to supporting men and boys through life challenges. We align with the International Men's Day movement and its six pillars, which promote the well being of men and boys worldwide. Open Up creates a safe, inclusive space for people from all walks of life to share their life journeys, challenges, and triumphs. The program it airs on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, featuring one guest per episode. However, depends on the guest time zone and situation circumstances, which sometimes we change it. So that's why we have a today special show at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Um, Before I introduce our special guest today, I would like to review our disclaimer. We would like to remind everyone that Voice of Men 360 is committed to promoting peaceful harmony in all our interactions. The views and opinions are shared by our speakers are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Voice of Men 360. Please note that our content is not a substitute for professional medical or therapeutic advice. If you are struggling with personal challenges, we strongly encourage you to reach out to a qualified expert. For questions or concerns about today's episode or any of our content, please, feel free to email us at info@voiceomen360.org. Like I said earlier, we have an amazing guest today. His name is Sean B.W. Parker, artist, writer, musician, published several books and albums, and he has given TED Talk. I'm going to share his social media handlings later on. But in our conversation today, we're going to look into media justice collusion against men, legal situation for men in the UK, cancel culture in the arts and its effects on men's careers. Sean, welcome, man. Actually,
Intro, very nice.
thank you. Thanks a lot for joining, and absolutely a pleasure to have you. Sean, can you take us back? Like your work spans painting, poetry, music, and cultural theory. How do how do these discipline interest in helping intersect in helping you explore justice, power, and identity?
Well, I suppose they kind of inform each other, really, because I'm a trained artist in the first place at university, so I have a love for art before justice reform came of interest a couple of years ago. Um, so it's the painting these days because you want it to speak to people in certain ways, and because of the ramping up of the culture wars about 10 years ago, it seems like a very important thing to comment on, and it's a thing of our world. So that with the painting, and so I'll do stories and stuff like that, and people maintaining innocence under the aegis of the innocence art, which is a coin termed by Dr. Michael Norton of Empowering the Innocent, who I work with at University of Bristol. He came up with innocent art some 20 years ago, and I started to incorporate lots of those themes into what I do in painting. And all the other art forms, I will touch on these things, less so with the music, which is just an entirely other world of doing things in art rock, I suppose. But an intuitive listener will hear that the things I write about in this will talk to the things that I paint about in that. So I do try and bring it all together.
Absolutely. Especially nowadays, you had to use different ways or multiple ways to interact and convey your messages, right? So that's a perfect. I believe, especially with the arts, right? It's easy to connect and people can really get the message, though, right? So you have spoken about media, just its collusion against men. What does this term mean to you, and how do you see it playing out in today's cultural and legal landscape?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that kind of anybody of either sex watching the television or the internet and everything else can spot now a pattern of people who are high profile, males in this case, who will speak out about something. And before you know it, they are being piled on by a coordinated media campaign of interested media who will then, I mean, just for an obvious example, Mr. Russell Brand, the comedian, a couple of years ago here in Britain, he's a bit of an internationalist, but was accused of rape. He's going on trial this year, and the amount of coordination involved in destroying him over 2 weeks, tried to destroy him, doesn't seem to have affected him at all. He seemed to have got more popular. Um, and of course, that's a live case. I'm not talking about the case. I'm talking about the media treatment of it. And through the Johnny Depp stuff, which to all intents and purposes put a massive question mark over the Me Too era in the West, and we all watched it play out, and everyone chose their sides. And each time one of these high-profile people goes through what they go through, I think people spot a little bit more what's going on, which is it's a collusion. It's trying, because of the absence of evidence, which is usually in these things, not just sexual assault, but lots of other kinds of details like the free speech and things like that. Andrew Tate, the gang up is very, very obvious to people these days. And the suspicion of the mainstream media is sufficient that people's suspicions aren't, sorry about my headphones, people's suspicions aren't unfounded.
Absolutely, because the thing is like the way they present or portrayed men, masculinity, and things like that. Not only UK but around the world, right? But as you said, you're right, because some of the popular case or famous people come to media and then it's spotlight, and then they don't know, the public, they don't know what's going on behind the scene, and the real case means what those individual going through in real time, right? We don't know. There's so many emotional challenges at the same time. It's for many reasons, many things are behind the scene, right? But we don't understand. Only people see what they see, right? So from your perspective, Sean, what are the most pressing legal challenges men currently face in UK, and why do you think these issues received limited public attention?
Yeah, that definitely plays into the last question about the media collusion. Dr. Norton, that I was just talking about earlier, has just published a paper which revolves around the idea of misanthropic feminism, and by that he means that both men and women are affected negatively by the extremes of militant academic feminism in the ways that might lead to the media collusion. I don't want that to sound too complicated, because the point is, it's not just about men. It's about the families of the men who are involved. And there are numerous in prison and in the community and everything else whose families and friends are divided on their own cases, the allegations against them. And this just is a very corrosive effect on society. Like the Voice of Men 360 will know very well of what I talk. It's the way that allegations of various sorts can disrupt and destroy, and the fear is it's intended to destroy the fabric of traditional society. not just traditional, any society. The paper of Michael Norton's goes into this in depth, as an academic paper does. And the challenges in terms of the UK, we're challenging the Crown Prosecution Service, which applies in Canada as well, of course, over their treatment of people that are accused of sexual assault and rape under voluntary intoxication. So we're doing that as a campaign at the moment.
Right. See, sometimes, I mean, whether we like it or not, the media, they do their part at the same time. People be more aware or be more mindful, I would say that, because they also have to look into other side of the coin, what's going on in the real time, right? But at the same time, what do you think, like, as an just a ordinary man, or even you have been working in the sector for some times, and then you have worked with a couple of different, you know, organizations too. So how it can be changed, or in what way, what kind of changes you would see, especially in the media?
An acknowledgement that the culture wars, all the division, might be good for profits and clicks in the media, but they are not good in the sense of natural justice in the West and all over the world. This sort of poison comes out of Stanford in the first place, some say, as academics say, in California, and it just ripples across the world in terms of how to bring powerful males down who have created and are supporting a mythical patriarchy which doesn't exist anymore, and then if it ever did, in that sense, and understanding that actually brings its own profits. And then the Me Too movement is all about the profits, and then the other side of the Me Too, which is the depth stuff. And then every time there's a bump in the media, there's a whole new panic, incentivized panic through the system. However, the internet, the maturity of the internet now has somewhat seen through it all, and people are really questioning all of those myths and legends, and they have become that. So when it comes to what can we improve, well, being honest, I think is the improvement. And it's not coming just from men, because I know statistically that most people who follow the work that Michael and I do in empowering the innocent are women, and it's not like a percentage thing, but it's fair to say that 75% of them are women. It's the friends of the accused, the families of the accused. Sometimes women have been accused themselves, rarely, but it happens. So it's not a gendered thing in our experience.
One thing I just want to add to that, because when we speaking about impact and effect and the things, not only that individuals, but also the family members, both side, I would say, like both side, there are males in the family, so they had to look into those two, like as a husband or even brother, or cousin, or anybody in the circle, that they will be, in the long run, they will be affected, impacted too. Also they have to look both sides too, because it's not when they file false allegations, it's not your only one going to get punished, or in the system. So how about cancel culture has become a major force in the arts? How has it affected creative freedom, and in particular men's careers and willingness to speak openly?
Kind of cancel culture is very closely related to everything that we're talking about. It's not necessarily about men. It's about speaking up and free speech, and that goes to both sexes. During the trans wars, which are kind of winding down somewhat now, there was a massive push for people not to talk about it, and if they did, they'd be sacked. And so that just infuriated many people of all kinds of backgrounds, who are like, don't tell me how to call somebody or what's actually going on. And then that was happening in tandem with people like Kevin Spacey, who sort of lost everything, having to pay for the legal debts and things like that, and some payment back to Netflix. We sort of hope he's. I mean, there's nothing that stops a good actor, but it's like he won the two court cases. He was very honest about his old behaviours, and despite all that, they tried their best to destroy him, and just because of being a rich entitled male who would be rich or famous anymore under all this, you know. And so, and that was a really blatant version of cancellation. To Graham Linehan, the English comedian who wrote Father Ted, was deeply embroiled in the trans wars until recently, where he was backed up by lots of biological reality and the Supreme Court judgment and things like that. So, and that's obviously in the trans area, and then there's the false allegations area with Spacey, but they both come from the same source, which is people using identitarianism to push their political agenda, and that is the main driver behind the cancel culture, which also we seem to be coming to a post-cancel culture time now.
Absolutely. So I can hear a couple of things, but at the same time, whether we like it or not, nowadays we're talking about any major subject or any small subject that we take, everything is under influence of politics, right? We cannot ignore that. We had to, of course, deal with it. At the same time, we had to understand what's going on in our backyard, right? So I also want to ask one more question on this same subject when we're talking about willing to speak openly or free speech. So, what do you think for men, especially in UK? Do they have enough space, or what kind of space they have to speak openly or to share their emotional challenges or their personal stories, though?
There seems to be a push in the media from time to time because everyone says, of course, we want the mental health of men to be better. And then they will push it from a feminist point of view. So they want to see the crying, they want to see apology for the patriarchy, they want to see apologies for things that are nothing to do with the men, which aren't necessarily problems either. They've been constructed as problems. So it's been noticed that the only way we're allowed to have conversations about men is through the eyes of women, and that is not as divisive as it's a divisive thing, but it's put out as be kind. Be kind to men with mental health problems. Well, stop telling them how you would like them to feel and let them actually express. Would be the next stage of this. So the British experience, as always, because we're such a small island filter of loads of people, is very mixed. Where there are lots of experts in men's rights areas, men's rights, men's feelings, men's issues, who will support that kind of soft approach. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that isn't the only way. There are all kinds of ways for a man to be himself. And that might include not talking about stuff, getting on with things, stiff upper lip, as we might call it, and going out for a good old walk and that kind of thing. Traditional behaviors rather than sitting in front of a counsellor behaviors. But they don't like that kind of thing. So it's really entirely up to the man, and that's never taken into account.
So, can we say, like, in the last number of years, let's say 5 years or so, you see some positive changes that some sort of movements. Of course, not everybody or all people. We are not blaming everybody, but some people, they are working and they are trying to help, genuinely trying to support men. On the other hand, can we say that?
Yeah, of course, there are some amazing bodies and people out there in Britain too, which is of course the field I play in. John Barry of the Centre for Male Psychology is a brilliantly mature, calm voice on the entire thing. To Phil Mitchell, specialist in man's rights, is very, very. These people are calm and they're not. People always attempt to put people in the manosphere to attack the thing, but they can't do it with these gentlemen because they are too sensible and very explicatory about everything that's going on. there's a fair thing to say about characters like Andrew Tate and others who are expressing their own self in their own way, and I don't actually object to that. But people will then get very furious about the massive reach that he has, as he puts it, and it's like, well, it's just another way of expressing yourself, I'm afraid. And the work he and Jordan Peterson were doing 5 or 6 years ago, they've had some legal problems in the meantime, but the work they were doing was very groundbreaking. But in terms of what's going on for the rest of us now, I'm not saying I agree with Tate. I do agree with Peterson. I'm not saying I agree with Tate, but they broke some ground in having the conversation, as they put it.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, of course, we are not, or we cannot agree every single things everyone doing. But at the same time, at least we can see some positive changes that people are making or trying to do what they can do, right? So it's a good movement, a good positive thing. Of course, you wrote several books, published several books. So one of them, I'm not sure I'm saying right or not. Panopticon, is that right?
Panopticon, yeah.
Suggests themes of surveillance, control, and observation. How do these ideas connect to modern media narratives about men? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a book of poetry. It's my first collection of poetry that was released at the end of last year, 2025, on Close to the Bone Publishing. It's done very well. It's number 14 in Amazon's poetry and political protest charts. So I'm very happy with it because it kind of gathers a lot of my feelings about the culture wars since 2018, particularly high Me Too, into how the media talks about people, the cliches they use throughout the book. I had another read back through it the other day, and throughout the book, I seem to try to invert the cliches in poetic language and to have fun with that. I love language, and and I hate cliche. So it kind of takes whatever buzzword they've got going on in the media, like toxic masculinity, for example. And I'm sure at some point in that book, I will have played with the whole toxic masculinity thing to try and to turn it inside out and to say, what exactly do you mean? This thing doesn't exist. There's toxic behaviors, but there's no toxic gender, including toxic femininity. So for an example, that's how Panopticon, which I strongly recommend your viewers buy, that's how that book plays out. Yeah.
Well, on the same subject, I want to also ask one question though, like how important or in what way upcoming writers or already whoever is writing, in what way they can contribute more or they can bring more about men's voice issues to the writing world, and how important is that?
Yeah, it's very important for creatives to be honest and to be allowed to be honest. I think the issue comes when that creative, perhaps they perhaps in their work they appear to be very violent or something. In the past, we wouldn't have worried about that. We'd have celebrated the violence, and because it's on the page, it's not the person. But now everyone's got trigger warnings everywhere in their head or otherwise. So it's like, oh no, you can't look at that book. It's full of violence against women, but it might be full of violence against men too. But all they'll focus on is the violence against women. It's the Nick Cave problem, who writes for 30 years, 40 years about the murder of young women in the romantic literature style. But now he gets attacked a lot of the time for being some kind of a misogynist, when it's like, I'm just writing the stuff. And that's of course back to the cancel culture too. And if any creatives watching this want to be, just write the stuff, write it, don't edit yourself. When it comes to presenting it to editors, you need to have the conversation then with them. Hope they're good. There are better editors coming through now who are sick to the back teeth of cancel culture, who will be well up for it. So you just have to find them and keep going. And if it doesn't work with them, so send me an email and I'll see who I can send it to.
Absolutely. Thank you for those encourage meaningful lines, because the thing is like not only people like yourself, but also people whoever is listening on the other hand, they had to think deeply. Maybe it's more and more we can see, because we have a large um, number of media presence, but at the same time, in the future, maybe down the road 5-10 years, it's a record, so we can go back and then we can look into that. Even the next generation, they can learn from these records, right? So it's very, very important. So that's why I was asking the question. I just want to mention to our audience, viewers, I just displaying this the book on Amazon, the link, so people can go and get more details. And also, I'm going to share his details, contact details, so social media links later on, so you can check him out. The next question is that. Well, you have received a recognition from both the mainstream and alternative cultural figures. How has external validation shaped your confidence to tackle controversial subjects?
It's always nice. It's nice to have a share from Ricky Gervais or Scott Adams, Nick Cave again. Those things are very nice to receive for your paintings. But I'm not the kind of guy that needs validation. I kind of crack on with my own inner locus. I'm just built like that. But when people get it and when you get the nice feedback, that's also very nice too. So I don't want it to be seen as arrogant. I just have a compass that does its own thing, has since I was 14, as far as I'm aware. And so nice to get the validation, but the accolades and things like that are like a passport to something else, like getting a degree. It's not the degree itself, especially not these days. It's not the degree itself that you're massively proud of. It just opens doors here and there, like getting an award or something. So that's the reality. That's the reality answer to that question.
Thank you. Absolutely, you are right. It encourages. At the same time, it brings some other side of too. But anyhow, um, I also want to throw this question. If you want to, you can answer. If you don't, it's okay. So let's say when you have a discussion or when you talk to those famous people, um, do you have a conversation dialogue about men's boys issues and what their perspective? You don't have to say their names, but you can just mention in general form.
Um, you don't really have to have the conversation with them because it's out there in their other output. So the things that everybody else watches, I watch too. And if you pay attention to it, they're communicating injustice a lot of the time, and injustice not in a victimhood way, because part of the problem with both the men's and the women's rights, all sex rights issues, is victimhood. It's an absolute cancer curse. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible, because everybody's a victim of something if they want to be. And you can take anything that you want. I was a victim of inverted Welsh racism as an English boy at a Welsh school. Do I go on about being a victim of that all the time? And there's lots of other things that I could pick out. But what a ridiculous way to live, and a race to the bottom. But the media and the government, Keir Starmer, if you can't get through a paragraph without saying victim, it's a very positive day on the television in Britain. And it's just so negative. It's an entirely negative way of living your life, whatever might have happened. And then when you go into the victimhood itself, you'll see that somebody else was a victim too. Why have I gone down that line? You asked me about what these the famous people say. They've already come out with it, And so I'm not sure about Ricky Gervais. He just does brilliant gags, but Nick Cave is being increasingly honest and open about men's rights. It's very much, he puts it in the terms of human rights, as we're all starting to do, because it is now so utterly controlled by systematized feminism of both sexes. Both men and women are operating systemized feminism, that the best creatives are kicking against that, as they quite should, because it's not a realistic thing that they're presenting. It's a deeply unfair one.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's just adding a flavor how people are living or thinking on a regular basis, right? So, as someone who has lived in and worked internationally, what cultural differences have you observed in how societies treat male vulnerability and dissenting voices?
Um, I guess the only frame of reference I've got for it is Istanbul. I was living in Istanbul for 10 years, 2004 to 2014. And I was a teacher there and a musician. And when it came to the music, there were no, it's the same as Britain. So, people go to a gig and they watch the thing and they have a drink and they talk about music. So not much there. But when it came to the classroom in the cultural studies classes that I would teach, we would try to go into interpersonal differences, interrelationship differences in Britain and Turkey. And if I and there's a sort of an understanding, being a traditional culture, Turkey essentially, being a very largely traditional culture where the woke progressiveness is not taken a massively deep hold. If I said, well, you see it as quite a natural thing that you might have a mistress or you might cheat on your wife. How about if she has a has a man and cheats on the husband? And they would all burst around in fits of laughter, and that would kind of make me think that's interesting. They just would not take the possibility seriously. It was such a radical thing to suggest, and so that compared to where British feminism is now, which is an entirely the slang is simped and cucked population of men. You just are too afraid to come out in case they lose their job, in case they alienate their social group, in case they don't get invited back to that next dinner party. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was to 10 years there, and Istanbul and Turkey is a very special place, like everywhere is special, and it's just I knew it was going to be more traditional than it was, and I just brought my English ways over there to try and open some minds as best I could.
Yeah, it's true because some of the reality or we can see what's going on. But some world they have their own way of taking a decision or anything, but at the same time it's they don't see how it's affecting other gender at the same time, right? It's a very sad reality that we had to face or we are going through in the last decade or so. So in your review, sorry, in your view, what responsibility do artists and writers have when challenging dominant social narratives, especially as a man or speaking about men's perspective?
Mm. I don't think that art has a responsibility to anything. It's its own value, and if that's just making nice, pretty pictures of flowers, that's its own value. And if it's a shark in an aquarium with a million people walking around it, that apparently has its own value too. So and that's of course just art in that sense. It entirely depends on the maker. If you're a person like me that likes to communicate cultural points to an audience and it's not really finished until that audience has absorbed it, then you're going to give yourself a responsibility, I suppose. But at the same time, I will then for the valve relief and for the pure art do a pure abstract which has no um, uh, cultural meaning at all. So, answer to you, I don't think that the art has a responsibility to do anything. It's the maker, and if he or she um, um, wants to talk about these things, then he's going to, and then he can move as well. You can go other places. Just always keep it real, whatever you're doing. That's the point. Don't play to the gallery.
Right. Thank you. um, I do have a few announcements. I do have a few more questions just to come back to you. Let me give some announcement and then I will bring you back, okay? Give me
Okay.
1 2 minutes. So we do have open up airs on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. However, sometimes it depends on the guest time zone and everything. We change it, and that's why Today we have a different time, 12 p.m. Eastern time. And same thing, Tamil live talk show Willie is on Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern time. And then a monthly men's group meeting only for men by men. Second Saturday of every month from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Through Zoom. No recordings. Please join through Zoom. The link is available on our Facebook page and group. There are no limitations on gender, age, nationality, or ethnicity. People from all walks of life can participate in any of our shows. If you like to be a guest on any of our shows or are interested in joining our organization to help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We would love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. Phone number is 226 289 8784. Email address info@voiceomen360.org. Website www.voiceomen360.org. You can find us all on all the social media platforms, Facebook group and page. Join our group to see our daily activities. Please invite your friends as well. Our other social media platforms are Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Voiceomen 360. There are more than 600 episode videos uploaded on various topics, and you can see it. You can watch it. We want to reach out to more people and help more. Please continue your support. Coming back to Sean. Um, so, what advice would you give to male creatives who feel silenced or fearful of expressing unpopular truths?
Yeah, I think we touched on this earlier, didn't we? It's it has to be important for a creative to express how he feels anyway, and how the world is, um, and to possibly have that fight with your editors and with your gatekeepers if necessary too. Um, put that fight as sensibly and responsibly as you can. Keep the receipts, as you put it earlier. Keep a record at Empowering the Innocent. Dr. Michael and I, when if things don't always look like they're going our way, or if a result doesn't come as expected, you've done a bunch of work in the meantime about articles and everything else, which you save for future record there. And if your audience wants to go to empoweringtheinnocent.com and the False Allegations Watch strand, you see absolutely hundreds of articles over the last 4 years. I'm the editor of it, and the articles, when you look back through them, you're like, they're fascinating, because they're like the punctuation of time in the way that the media changes with the story. And a couple of the stories are very small, human-based, local, and a couple of them are big, famous people like the Spaces and the brands we were talking about earlier. So your creatives just got to keep it real. I'm afraid that's how it is, and also do it with as much dignity and calmness. To try to deflect all that Tate stuff that they chuck at everybody. I know that might get the clicks, but we have to somewhat do it in as dignified a way as possible, because we're all human beings, and we've agreed that the women also in our lives deserve the kind of respect that we that we all want.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that, because the thing is, like, especially when we're talking about arts and culture and things like that, it's something you really want to do it. So there's no point of hiding or um, not telling the truth, right? So it's very, very important that you want to convey the message as you wish, right? It's not like something going to happen or come back or backfire, things like that. But you really want to show the truth, the real world, what's going on, right? So this way, not only as a media, sorry, as an artist, but as a human being, you can bring out the truth, so people can see it, what's going on, so they can understand, right? It is I would say one of the responsibilities of an artist, right? Being an artist, right? So one thing I just want to mention, all the contact details, social media links, and I'm displaying so you guys can watch it and then reach out to him. He's a nice guy, so he will contact you. He will help you. Looking ahead, what changes would you like to see in the media, justice system, and arts sector to create a fairer environment for men?
Hmm. Well, we need more people like you and me and everybody else we're sort of talking about in editor positions in the mainstream media. Um, and and that's not just men. That means Janice Fiamengo, the Canadian academic, having her as the editor of the Times or something, not just in order to go. She's a critic of feminism, not a feminist critic, critic of feminism, and just its extremes. We until there's a situation where everybody agrees with the sense of what we're saying right now, Savan. It's just that when that goes to the editors, it's put through a filter of war in their minds, and that war, the aim of that war, the unspoken aim, is the minimization and the marginalization of men, and also white men, if I may, because this is seen as the historical power that needs to be unpacked, and that's postmodern, post-structuralism. But we don't need all those academic terms to see what's being played out and the way they do it. And in every series, like Adolescence and everything else, that is such an unusual crime that happened in that series, reflecting a couple of very unusual crimes at that time. You'll find far more boy on boy stuff and girl on girl stuff, for that matter. This is a specifically English thing, but you probably know what I'm talking about. And all of this bias, very much unspoken. They're never going to come out overtly and do, yes, we are a misanthropic, misandrist media right now. They don't need to. There's an agreement. There's an agreement pitched to them from the gender studies at university since the age of 18, and they take it into the careers, into the academy, into the editorship, into politics, and into being lawyers. And only now, thanks to the exposure of the internet largely, and just the amount of absolute bullshit they've been throwing at people, that people are now coming through and going, hang on, that's not fair. It doesn't apply to this and this. And how come every pub table in Britain, if you go into a Waterspoons and say, anybody in here being falsely accused, about two tables say, oh yeah, I know someone, my uncle was, or my best mate was. That's the reality now. And that's a biased, bizarre situation to be in. That's what we need to change.
Absolutely. One thing I want to emphasize, really, really important, is that when we look at the ratio of suicide men around the world is 78 to 80%. So there are many, many layers behind that. And you need to, especially those media who are in the media. Of course, we cannot target everybody, or we cannot talk about every big names media. But the thing is, like, the people behind the media, they had to look into that right now. What's going on? How many men each day, each minute, each second we are losing, and also the next generation we are losing too, because 19 to between 19 and 25, the second most highest suicide rate, it's a men, young men. So we are losing the second generation, next generation too. So all this, it's you had to consider what's going on, and then you had to think deeply before you put your article or anything. I'm talking about the media people behind that, right? So they have a vital role to play. So they have to look deeper and deeper before you just share the news or post anything. Um, Sean, BW Parker, thanks a lot. Thank you for joining and sharing your life journey. At the same time, you shared a lot of different, very good, valid points. And of course, I'm pretty sure people who are watching on the other line other side, they can get at least some points, or they can change their perspectives and makes decision based on that. Thanks a lot, and then we will bring you sometimes in the future to discuss more. Of course, we had to discuss more. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sivam. Had a great time. Cheers.
Um, like I said earlier, I am actually displaying his contact details. Please go and check out him. And at the same time, please share this episode with your contacts network so they can watch it too. Please continue supporting. Thanks a lot. See you next time.